And we're live,
We're
back in
live
action.
again. Back in action, like you say.
So today we're going to talk about an interesting topic. Is the United States still the land of opportunity?
Okay, what do you think?
Well, just to put some context, you're a Cuban refugee,
Yes.
Cuban immigrant.
Yeah.
I'm the son of a Cuban immigrant and Mexican, well, Mexican descendant,
Uh
right?
huh.
And so first generation or so. So from my perspective, is the United States still the land of opportunity? I believe it is.
Okay, then it is.
Then it is. And but I've heard some interesting arguments, and I think to uh, give it a just, um, I guess, argument on both sides, it's
Okay.
good to maybe see both angles, right? I believe it is. I see the opportunity that businesses, small businesses, some of them still become very successful. Some people that opened a business many, many years ago, let's say 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, some of them achieved a certain level of success, but there are always new businesses coming in and either buying the old ones or still doing well. Um, so I do think so. I do think it's still a land of opportunity. What do you think?
Well, I still think it's the land of opportunity.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to convince me of the opposite. Has it changed? Yes.
Yeah.
Is it maybe a little bit more difficult? Maybe. You know, there's a lot more regulations and city guidelines that you have to follow, and sometimes they seem silly, you know,
Yeah.
and they make you go through a lot of hoops, and they're costly. You know, I'm thinking of permits and this and that. You
Yeah.
know, we just moved to one of our offices, and it's brutal. Okay, what sometimes they make you go through. However, if you're willing to go through that ordeal, I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel,
Yeah.
and that light is, success. So opportunities abound, and I believe that.
Yeah.
The other side of the coin is that if you believe that it's no longer the land of opportunity, you're also right. Because
Yeah.
to a certain extent, it's a mindset, like you said earlier this morning when we were having breakfast.
Part of it's a mindset, but there are other factors. Like for example, housing has never been more expensive
Mm-hmm.
in comparison to the incomes that people are making. So yes, houses were a lot cheaper. People were making a lot less
Yeah.
40 years ago, 50 years ago. But the comparison is that it was a lot more possible, manageable, feasible to buy property, real estate, to move up in life, right? So even though the mindset's there, there are other factors, inflation, um, the wages, right? That maybe cost of education. There's things like that that have gone up
Oh,
astronomically.
yeah.
And I don't have the exact numbers here. I know some people present a very thorough argument, like, look at the cost of education, how it's risen in the last 40 years, 50 years.
Through the roof.
Right, in comparison to wages, median wages. And so some factors like that, a very good argument, right? We talked about a steel man and a straw man, which
Right.
I got that from Lex Friedman's podcast,
Okay.
because Lex Friedman does that when he interviews somebody. He asks them to present they're obviously in favor of something, but then he asks them to present the other side. And one of the things that he was interviewing a guy named CoffeeZilla, which I really like him. He's a investigator, uh, investigative journalist kind of guy,
Uh huh.
but he's all on YouTube. And he was talking bad about Andrew Tate
Okay.
and the university, and he enrolled to the university. So he went pretty deep in there to do investigation on Andrew Tate. And he says at the end of the day, what you're paying for, you're not getting the value out of it. And then Lex Friedman said, "Well, is there any? Can you give me the 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 other angle of it, like the positive side to maybe what Andrew Tate's doing?" And he's like, "Wow, this is difficult." But he actually brought some positive points. But then he went back to his why he doesn't think it's good. So it's interesting. But if we were to do the other opposite argument against what we believe, which is the United States is still a land of opportunity, you can make some of these points, right? Um, and so that it's more difficult than it was, let's say, 30 years ago for the new generation. Now, the new generation, you can also say, well, they're not working as hard, or they're not. The people that I know, I'm in my early 30s. The people that I know in their 30s, the people that I'm surrounded by are hardworking people. So when people say the millennials, which I'm a part of, are not hardworking people, I which ones are you talking about? Because the ones that I
The ones you hang with.
hang with all seem to be working extremely hard. But sure, there are millennials that don't work, but there were also baby boomers that didn't work.
Absolutely. A bunch of lazy. I had a bunch of friends that were all a bunch of lazy bones, you know? Yeah.
So it's interesting. I think every generation does that.
Right. Well, the thing is that there's a couple things here. Um, if you want to get somewhere, okay, you know, they're saying, hey, don't work hard, work smart. But you got to work hard, smart, whatever, you got to put in the hours, okay? So if you want to get somewhere, you have to work.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening in that journey is that the friends that are not working hard, what are they doing? Well, maybe they're partying, okay, and they're going to barbecues all the time, or, you know, and you don't have the opportunity, not you, but the ones that are working hard don't have the opportunity to party that much, okay? So they're working harder. So then what ends up happening that on that path, those friends fall by the side of the road, and you obtain new acquaintances and new friends that are in tune and in line with where you're going or where you're headed.
Yeah.
It just happens by nature.
Yeah.
You know, you hear that old cliche that says, oh, you know, he's changed a lot, or money has changed him. And everybody changes. Everybody. Because, for example, this, you know, I don't listen to Lex Friedman. Is that the Russian kid? Or
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't listen to him a lot, and maybe I should. But it's a good point. You know, I haven't heard often at all this steelman, strawman thing.
Yeah.
But in that particular case that you were talking about, CoffeeZilla?
CoffeeZilla, yeah.
Yeah, okay. He's saying, okay, for what Andrew Tate is charging, you don't get the benefits of, right? It's not that good.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to defriend this Andrew Tate guy, okay? But that's his opinion.
Yeah.
That is CoffeeZilla's opinion.
Correct.
It depends where you are in your life.
Right.
Somebody could, and I don't know what this guy's charging or anything like that,
Yeah.
but that someone could potentially pay that X amount of money and embrace that thing, and he's new in business,
Yeah.
and he might get a ton of benefit out of it.
Yeah.
So when you are critical of one of these self-development courses,
It's relative, it's individual, it's
it is. Now, I
different.
know that a lot of them, you know, you have to be very careful who you listen to,
Yeah.
okay? But
Yeah, he was just presenting what
Right.
he believed, and he tries to call out scammers. He called out Logan Paul, which was a big deal because, and then he came out and apologized, Logan Paul, because he scammed a lot of his audience, or it seemed that he scammed a lot of his audience with an
Bitcoin
NFT.
or NFT, okay.
But you know, there's a lot of that. I think if you're getting in that world of NFTs and crypto and all that, there's gonna be it's so new. There's going to be maybe even not even a scam, but just maybe Logan Paul didn't even know, right? But this guy goes very thorough to explain he did know, and
Yeah,
he calls him out.
I don't know much about it,
Yeah,
okay?
But-
But from the little that I've heard, it seems like, well, I don't know enough to
Yeah.
comment, you know?
but that's why I like CoffeeZilla, because he goes in deep and then presents a case. But he might be wrong. He might be wrong.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that he's wrong. And I'm not defending this Andrew Tate guy, because I barely got introduced to him recently.
Yeah,
You know, he seems like one tough, abrasive
yeah. Well,
Myrnaloid.
yeah. But everybody knows his name now, or a lot of people, because of the way he is, and
Right.
created a personality online.
Right, right. I mean, I know he comes from humble beginnings,
Yeah,
and he didn't even have food to eat. So he went to a chicken place to get his protein. I've heard
Yeah.
that. So, you know,
but going back to the land of opportunity,
right.
you're saying, okay, there's a lot more regulations than there were before. There's a lot more, and those are meant to be, the regulations are meant to do two things. I think from my perspective, one is like safety, or to benefit the people. That's why you do create regulations. Like if
Mhm.
they were unsafe working
Okay.
environments.
Oh, yeah,
and
for
now
sure.
you have regulations that don't allow that.
I agree with that.
But then the other angle is, you could say, revenue. The more regulations, the more revenue to a city, state, country, etc.
Yeah, well, some of the regulations are silly. Some of the stuff that I just recently had to go through was silly stuff.
Yeah.
Okay?
And those, yeah.
And you just can't lose sleep over it. And you chuck it up to the cost of doing business,
Yeah.
and you have to move on.
Yeah.
But it's costly.
Yeah.
Okay? Time consuming in some cases.
Sure.
You know, these people are coming out and they don't give you a time. They give you a window period.
Yeah, like a city inspector.
Yeah,
or a
you got to
city-
be there. I'll be there between 9 a.m. and 3 o'clock.
But to be fair, that's with a lot of companies. I mean, I was getting internet installed, and they tell you or an alarm, and they say from 1 to 5.
Right, but it kills.
I know, but a lot of, but I get it. There's schedules, and
I
these
got
people are on the road. But the idea of it being the land of opportunity, people still want to migrate here.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason people want to migrate here is because there's more opportunity here. This morning we were talking to the gentleman at the cafe.
Yes.
Super cool guy, and his girlfriend is from Guatemala, and we were sharing with him that he, we say, hey, we're Cuban, we love coffee, and he said, and then you mentioned that in Cuba, and at certain times, and maybe in the situation today, getting coffee is not an easy task, right?
Not for the Cubans that live there.
For the Cubans.
Yeah,
but
for the Cubans.
But for the tourists,
For the tourists,
you got coffee.
the best coffee yeah, one of the best coffees, let's
That's
say.
what he was saying. He
I was
says,
saying, you have the best coffee in the world. No, we don't. We do, but we don't. The people can't have
joy of it.
Correct.
And that's one thing that there's this guy on Instagram. I think his name is Yoel. You've sent me his stuff. I've sent you his stuff. He's him and his wife. They're Cuban immigrants, but he just got here
Yeah.
within a few years, and he goes through different things. He goes to the grocery store, and he's super emotional that he's seeing food all over the grocery store. He goes to he has his first like In-N-Out burger.
Oh my God.
He has his he went the other day to the 90 Key West, the buoy.
Oh,
the
yeah.
90-mile from Cuba.
He hugged it,
He
right?
hugged it, and he was crying.
I
there.
saw that.
And he says, all the Cubans that died trying to get here. So it's interesting. It's a perspective that I think is very, and that's what I'm getting to. Is the guy this morning, our buddy at the cafe, says, I want to go to Guatemala. I like traveling. I like culture, because when you come back, you appreciate a lot more what you have.
You're
here.
a different man, a different woman.
Yeah.
And that's just one country. We're talking about Cuba because I was born in Cuba.
Yeah.
But you can talk about,
Central
example,
South America.
I have a buddy from Vietnam,
Sure.
okay, that he got into the jungle to cross to, I forget what other country, and he got caught like 10 times. And every time it was worse. They gave him a beating or whatever. The last time, he said, I'm either going to make it or, they know me so well this time, they're going to beat me to death.
Jeez.
And so he got through and he came to America, became a very successful businessman. He's from Vietnam. And one of the things that happened to him is that growing up, he didn't get enough milk. So he always had really, really bad teeth. Okay? And one of his pet peeves in life, okay, was to eat a nice juicy steak and enjoy it without having the issue of not being able to. So you know what he did? He got himself all implants. And he smiles. And he's got a beautiful set of teeth. And he enjoys those steaks. And, he says it to me, only in America.
Yeah.
If I had stayed in Vietnam, I could not have done it. And we're going back, right, when they were being occupied by communists.
Yeah.
But the thing is that in order to make it, when he opened up his business, he was sleeping in his business. He never made it home, for 3 days in a row. The exhaustion of working there to try to make the American dream.
Yeah.
He would stay and sleep there. And that's a sacrifice that...
very few will make.
Correct. You have to be driven.
Yeah.
Something has to drive you to that level. It's like Steve Jobs said, you have to be crazy to put in this number of hours and do this number of things.
Now, that's an amazing story, right, of your friend who made it here. And to put perspective or acknowledge also, you don't have to go too far and you see homeless people here.
Yes.
You see very poor communities, very really here in the United States. So how is it the land of opportunity if we also have... I want to present both sides, right? Because an immigrant comes here and sometimes they make it, sometimes, or sometimes they barely get by. Sometimes it's a huge success story. But if it's the land of opportunity, then why do we have so much poverty here in the United States, or homelessness? And I know that that's a really deep question.
Yeah,
I'm
I don't
not
know
asking
the
you
answer.
to answer it.
Yeah, I don't know the answer.
But I'm just saying, it's the other side, right? It's the land of opportunity, because you can get here, you can work your butt off, and you can move on up. And then, but also, we have that other side, And that's I think why some people, and I have a good buddy that he moved to Mexico, grew up here, moved to Mexico, and he was saying from his perspective, and I thought it was interesting, he said the U.S. was the land of opportunity.
Oh.
When there was a huge migration, let's say 50s, 60s, 70s, 1980s, 1990s, but he's saying in today's day it is no longer what it used to be. And so because you can work remote and you can work for a Chinese company or an Indian company or a US company and live in Mexico.
Right.
He, from his perspective, he's saying I'd rather do that because he doesn't think it's here anymore. It's just his perspective, and that's one person. But I thought it was an interesting angle because, like you said, mindset's really important, and if he believes it, he believes it. But the other thing is that there are other factors.
Oh.
That, cost of healthcare here, and there's a lot of stuff as to why. We were sharing about a gentleman that we know that unfortunately, because of healthcare was a big part, he lost a lot of his what he had accumulated. He sold a business. Unfortunately, his wife got sick. Maybe he didn't invest or save. We don't know the specifics, but unfortunately, he ended up living out of a car.
Right.
in the land of opportunity.
Right.
So there, that's all I'm saying is like it's I think good to look at different angles, and I like to look at success stories as a form of inspiration personally, because I'm
Sure.
like, hey, if he can do it, I can do it. If she can do it, I can do it. But then also there's those situations that are the other side, and I think that's one thing that I really wanted to bring to you, and I'd like to hear your perspective on, because like we said the other day, on Instagram, on social media, people show the glorification of things, all the pretty stuff. What about the hard and the challenges and the ugly stuff that goes on?
Yeah.
You know?
First of all, I don't know the answer. Okay.
Yeah.
What comes to mind is that there's people that are doing well and people that are not doing well in every country of our earth. Every country.
Yeah.
As you were speaking, I thought of, because I'm on social media a lot, maybe I'm addicted to it, but I'm on social media a lot, and then there was this young man who was giving an example, I think, of one of the rich cities, I believe Guatemala. Yeah, I think Guatemala. And he was in, I want to say, a gated community, but the houses were beautiful. They were very well
Yeah.
done and painted, large. And this is
A tiny country that a lot of it is poor,
a lot of it. But he was in one of these towns where
like a gated.
maybe gated, yeah, and it was beautiful.
Mm.
It looked like a place in Italy or something like that. And so I'm sure that Guatemala has a lot of very poor sectors, but there's some sectors that are not.
Right.
So what distinguishes the person that, because we're talking about success, I guess, economically, there are many forms of success, and so economic success, what determines one who makes it and one who doesn't?
Yeah.
I think it has to do with the individual. I honestly do.
Yeah.
The drive that the individual has. There's a million factors, okay?
Yeah.
If you start, unfortunately, drinking too much,
Yeah.
or if you hang out with the wrong guys and you start trying drugs, that's definitely not going to lead you into a path for success in any aspect of life.
Yeah.
Family, friends, personal, business, whatever you want, I think. And what takes a person in that direction? God knows what. And let me just say this, it could happen to anybody.
Right.
Okay? And I mean anybody.
Yeah.
Because through our businesses, I have seen people that have had it all. The family life, real tight, really well set.
Financial.
Financial also, but
Maybe something's missing. Maybe.
but the family life.
Yeah.
And then they start, for X or Y reason, drinking or whatever, and in a few short years, it gets decimated.
Yeah.
So, we need to be alert to that danger, because it could happen to me,
Right.
okay? It could happen to anybody. And the other day you said something that was really
Oh.
earth-shattering. You said, the minute that you think
You don't perceive it as a threat.
that it's not a threat to you,
It's.
how did you finish it?
It's. I think I said something along the lines of, the moment you don't think it's a threat, it's the biggest threat
Right.
to you.
That's
Something.
not what you said.
Something
But
along
anyway,
those
it's
lines.
the minute that you think that it's not a threat to you,
Mm-hmm.
that's when you begin to.
Oh, I said the moment you think it's not a threat, it's most a threat. That's the way because I
Yeah.
wrote it down because I was doing different things. But
Okay, well, I think that is huge, because it could happen to anybody.
yeah,
And There was this Spanish show. I wish I could remember the names, but if somebody listening, it was an Argentinian gentleman who had produced a very famous show 30 years ago. I was growing up, no, 40 years ago maybe. I think I remember his name. His name was Enrique Gratas, Gratas.
He was a news anchor,
Argentinian news
actor, or reporter.
Reporter. I'm
Sounds
not sure, guys and ladies. I'm not sure. Anyway, his name was Enrique Gratas. And so he had really, really good shows. And my uncle would force me to watch them. And I hated it. You know, my uncle would say, sit down with me. I don't want to watch this alone. And I would tell, hey, I don't want to see it. And he goes, I don't care. I need you to see it with me. Anyway.
Periodista argentino, yeah.
Periodista argentino. Okay.
Enrique Gratas, he passed in 2015.
Oh.
Yeah, I remember this gentleman.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I remember one show in particular, and that's why I'm bringing him up. There was a guy that worked with him, okay, that was very successful also, and I guess was like his right-hand man. And for X or some Y reason, whatever the case was, they separated from the show. The guy just separated from the show. I don't know what the reason was, but I guess he started drinking. And they found this guy in one of the reportings of Enrique Gratas on the streets of New York, homeless.
Wow.
Okay? And that became a big. They went up to him and said, wait a minute, you look familiar. Are you? And he was. Are you this guy? And he was. And they rescued this guy from the streets.
Wow. He was like a co-anchor.
Co-anchor or something like that. They were very good friends, and for some reason they lost touch of each other. The guy went in a different direction. And you know, I'm watching this thing because my uncle is forcing me to watch it.
Yeah.
And that one I liked. And I didn't want to tell my uncle I liked it because he was forcing me to watch it. And then I thought, oh man, if I tell him, then he's got but that one got to me because the guy said it can happen to anybody. That's the moral here.
Yeah.
He was making it. I don't think the gentleman was from Argentina. He was from another Latin American country. But Enrique Gratas rescued him from the streets. And he was extremely grateful. And he had a lot of skills in editing and this and that and whatever, and he got back on his feet.
Yeah.
You know, so sometimes that's what it takes if you're not too far gone with your mind gone or anything like that. Because some of these folks, unfortunately, are really sick and they need not money thrown at them, but they need attention, medical attention.
Yeah.
Some of them.
Support.
You
know, I like it. Well, that's very interesting about that gentleman, and it's great that they found him. And
I'm gonna find out who he was.
But I like what you said about it's in the person, because what if like somebody could be watching us right now that's not in the United States, right? And I know we opened up with, is the United States still the land of opportunity? But correct me if I'm wrong, India has the most billionaires in the world?
I think you're right on that.
So it depends, again, what you consider to be success.
We're talking economic, I guess, economic success.
Correct. But you could be successful in any part of the world, right? We're talking about the United States. I, being the son of immigrants, and I always heard the story of immigrants. I always connected the story of refugees, immigrants. Like, I connected with them. I feel like being born with a Social Security and with a citizenship of the United States is already you're winning in life. Because I didn't...
You're absolutely correct.
I just happened to hit the lottery.
Yes.
And be born in that situation. And then if
That's
you could
what
be,
Dan Pena says, by the way.
and then if you could be born in a good family and all that. But I remember talking to a gentleman I worked with,
Mm-hmm.
um, friend Randy, and I remember telling him that because he was asking me what my goals were with the company and in the sales and all that, and I gave him some really high numbers. And he said, "Wow, well," he said, I remember him saying something really interesting, which I'll never forget. But,
What? Say it.
well, I said, he says, "I hope you don't just want to be a life insurance salesman, um, because the life insurance salesman in the company didn't make it. Most of them didn't last, and the real money, from his perspective, was being an insurance agent, an agency owner, not a life insurance agent. The life insurance agents would come a couple years and they'd go. Come a couple years. Some of them lasted, but they were the 10th of a %. And so, but the real money, from his perspective, and I have a lot of respect for him, was in becoming an agency. So I remember him saying, "I hope you don't just want to be I hope you have bigger aspirations." And I said, "I want to be, the number one life insurance agent in the company, in the country." And I threw out some numbers. And then I remember him kind of sitting back, I'm 28 or something at the time, 29, 28. But I said, I owe it to my grandparents who came to this country from Cuba, leaving communism, looking for the land of opportunity. I owe it to them to do something big in my life. That's what I told him. And I don't think he had maybe heard something like that before, but him and
What did he do? Sat back, or what was his reaction?
he kind of like had a little smile, and kind of just listened to me. And he knew something was a little different in the conversation than your typical person who just wants to make money and sell as much and then not thinking about tomorrow. But I was thinking something bigger here. And then he did say also that I reminded him of him
Himself.
30 years ago. Yeah,
His young
his
Randy.
young version.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
He's very successful, very.
Yeah, and so I have a lot of respect for him, and I took that as a big compliment. But he says, "You remind me of me in my 30s, or in my, when
30
I
years
started."
ago.
Yeah. And so it was a very powerful conversation, but
It's priceless.
But I believe it in my cells, in my blood. I believe that because I was given the gift of a citizenship and social security number and born in that situation, and then of course in a family that had a lot of love, that my grandparents did that for me. I owe it to my descendants. I owe it to them to do something big in this world. And so anyways, Randy was kind of just listening. He was listening.
So they're holding you accountable.
They're holding me accountable.
You need to do, and
Yeah.
don't forget to give back.
Yeah.
And giving back is, you can donate money to different organizations, okay? But I also look at giving back in improving the lives of everyone that's around you.
Yeah.
That can be the start,
Sure.
Everyone that's around you, my staff, my family, my friends,
Yeah.
give back, because this country has given us so much,
Yep.
okay? Just the freedom to be able to have a podcast like this, okay?
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
absolutely. And so give back,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Be respectful to people. Be grateful.
grateful.
Like you did today. You called a guy up who you liked, who treated you nicely, and you sent an email and that email got forwarded to his bosses, and he says the bosses didn't reply to me. It's kind of sad, but
Not even a handshake or a tap in the back.
he says, hey, it means a lot that you called and you made this email, because you were very grateful for his the way he treated you.
Yes.
the service. And so, yeah, I think,
And he said in that conversation, we get beat up a lot here in this business.
yeah, he
It-
did. He
you
did.
know, and he said we get beat up a lot, sometimes even without fault.
From customers.
Yeah,
Sure. If you're in the customer service business, you're gonna get beat up. There's no way around it.
yeah.
But it's cool. It's a cool perspective that you're sharing, and it's different, right? Because you weren't born here. I was born here. But
Well, I've seen things.
yeah,
Like when I got to Spain and my mom took me to the supermarket for the first time, I had not seen an apple in Cuba for a year and a half, maybe more. I was 8 years old, so the perspective.
yeah,
So when I got to Spain and I saw apples, I even asked my mom, "Hey, mom, can I get one of these?"
yeah.
And she says, "You can get as many as you want." And we walked out the store with about a bag of apples, and I remember eating a ton of them
Yeah.
that day. Yeah, because I hadn't seen an apple in Cuba for a year and a half, 2 years. I didn't know what an apple, I knew what an apple looked like because of pictures.
Wow.
Okay? So that's a different perspective,
Absolutely.
you know?
Yeah. And it's so you appreciate the opportunity that's here. Somebody told me, I don't remember who it was, but that they don't eat rice anymore because that's all they could eat. That's all they could eat.
That might have been John.
Was it John? I don't remember who it was right now, but that they don't eat rice. That's all they ate growing up. That's all they could afford, or that's all they had. And so now they're
That might
sick
have
of
been
rice.
John. That might have been John. But
So, well, cool. Well, I think that we leave it open, the question open to our viewers and for
and
everybody.
Randy, thank you very much, Randy.
Hey, shout out to Randy.
Shout out to Randy. You were a major player in my son's early life. Sometimes people don't realize
Yeah.
the effect that they have on another person
Yeah.
just by words that they use.
It's a split second that you have with somebody, a minute. You said it earlier today that you can make a difference in 25 seconds.
I saw that video today. Let's do that. The next time, let's talk about the 25 seconds
Yeah, that's powerful.
from
And
a
hopefully,
UPS gentleman.
hopefully a positive.
It is very
influence
positive and
that you-
tremendous message. 25 seconds, okay, from a UPS gentleman.
Yeah.
We'll do one on that one.
So I guess we got to go out there and make the best of it, and in this land of opportunity.
Yes, that's right.
Cool. Wrap it up there.
All right.